Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's video. This video will guide you through the issues of the Uncanny X-Men published by Marvel Comics in 1984. Issue 179. Beneath New York City, there is another city. Deep below the ground, there's a network of tunnels in the sewers, as far down as the skyscrapers reach up high in the sky. This is a place ruled by the Morlocks, a group of mutants separated from society and self-proclaimed outcasts. The bright and beautiful world above them has no place for them. And they have gathered today to celebrate their newest arrival amongst them, and a wedding as well. All orchestrated and overseen by their former leader named Callisto, who has recently had taken the title away from her by the X-Men Storm in single combat. Once the bride of the ceremony is prepared in a proper manner, Callisto tells one of the Morlocks to present the bride to her new family, who are all eagerly awaiting her arrival. And while this is being done, the question which remains for the people living above them in the surface world is: what happened to Kitty? Storm, Wolverine and Rogue have gathered at the Bellevue Hospital, currently standing at the morgue to identify a certain body. The clerk mentions how the night sky has suddenly turned into an incredible storm. He thinks it's freaky, but it's no wonder it has. With Storm being an elemental, the weather is reflecting her emotional state, and with her being worried about what she's about to witness, she is currently not in the best of moods at all. The clerk pulls the body out and retells what they know. A young Caucasian female either fell, jumped, or was pushed off the Baxter building earlier in the evening. The fall was from so high up that they have to assume that the girl was dead on impact. When he pulls the shroud on, he asks if they actually do recognize her, and Storm says that her name is Kitty Pryde. She thinks to herself what Kitty could have been doing at the Baxter building, with it being the Fantastic Four's headquarters, and wonders what could have happened to her. She looks stoically at Kitty, but her hand trembles, and a bolt of lightning lights up the night sky as if it is daytime. The lightning is followed by a loud boom, which shatters windows and shakes buildings to their very cores. The clerk mentions that it's getting pretty wild out there and it must be pretty impressive, and Logan urges him to go and take a look. The clerk says that he can't. He is not allowed to leave visitors alone in the morgue because that's against the rules. So Logan tells him to go and bend the rules a little bit. The clerk tells them that he's a reasonable guy and that they look like respectable and trustworthy people. So he gives them 5 minutes of alone time with Kitty's corpse. And he thinks to himself, he might just stall a little, in hopes of them having left when he returns. As he leaves, Aurora asks Logan what that was all about, with him chasing the guy out the door, and Logan tells her that some things are better said in private surroundings, because this isn't Kitty, he says. Aurora and Rogue then look at him like he's crazy, and Rogue actually tells him so. Logan says that maybe yeah, that is true, but he is also right. He says that this kid may have Kitty's face and outfit, and that she might be a perfect match down to her fingerprints and retina, but her scent is wrong. Aurora asks if he's 100% certain, and he tells her that he wouldn't have said it if he wasn't. Rogue asks Aurora why and what the point in this would be, and Aurora tells her that obviously someone wants them to believe that Kitty is dead. She continues by saying that they would bury her, mourn her, and probably even hunt down the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, mistakenly thinking that they would be the ones responsible for Kitty's murder, since this had been taking place during their battle with them, never being aware that she would actually still be alive and well, with their captors being able to do with her as they please, without having the fear of ever getting discovered. And they would have been successful in doing so too, had it not been for Wolverine's mutant abilities of enhanced senses. Meanwhile, an hour's drive upstate, in the mansion, Professor Xavier, Nightcrawler, Amanda Sefton and Colossus' little sister Illyana are all worried over Piotr. Kurt is examining him, and is trying to find out with Xavier what they can possibly do to rescue him from being encased in his own metal skin. Kurt is worried about his close friend and curses both Pyro and Avalanche for doing this to him. He tells the professor that he can't hear a heartbeat, but then again, he isn't even sure if Colossus has one when in armored up form. Kurt thinks that judging by the look on Pyotr's face and by the scars in his steel body, he might not even be able to survive once he reverts back to his normal human self, if they are even able to revert that process. Xavier and Kurt continue their conversation through telepathy, and they are just not certain whether the lack of readings and probes is in any way conclusive. Kurt looks at Ileana and thinks of how bad it must be for her to seemingly lose both her best friend and her big brother Pyotr all on the same night. He notices that even though his religious beliefs tell him to forgive his enemies and turn the other cheek, all he wants to do right now is hunt down the members of the Brotherhood and rip their hearts out. Ileana looks back at him and can tell how bad Kurt feels about all of this. She knows that he loves his friend Pyotr and that he would do anything to save him. He cannot accept that this time there may just be nothing he can do for him. It all comes a little bit easier on Ileana though. Even though she's only 14 years old, she has gone through a lot. Death and her are old friends. She has seen other versions of the X-Men, as real as the one she's sharing a house with, getting slaughtered in Balaska's demonic dimension of Limbo when she was just 7 years old, right before her eyes. And what's more, she has even killed 2 of them, the one she cared for the most, herself. Xavier gets hailed by Storm, and she tells him that Wolverine insists that the girl in the morgue is not Kitty, but a duplication, and that she agrees with him. Xavier is shocked to hear this, and Storm tells him that she has a suspicion who is responsible for Kitty's kidnapping and where they might have taken her. Xavier wants to know a whole lot more, but can't ask Storm any more questions, as he is suddenly overcome again by a massive, irresistible blast of psychic energy, and it hurts a lot. So much so that he loses control over his own telepathic powers and sprays Cybolts all over the infirmary. Cybolts capable of frying the brain of whomever they may strike. Amanda instinctively pushes Ileana to the ground along with her, and Nightcrawler teleports to Xavier to tell him to get a grip on himself, while he thinks to himself whether or not he should sedate the professor, because that might just make matters worse. Xavier starts mumbling. He senses that the scanning wave is of extraterrestrial origin, but is unable to pinpoint its source. Its focus is on him, but he can't find out why, and it's not responding to his attempts in making contact with the entity. Xavier can tell that the force is increasing with each encounter, and its effects are more debilitating than before. He is no longer capable of defending himself and passes out. Kurt is getting even more worried, and he asks his girlfriend Amanda to help him get Xavier to the life support cell. He figures he needs to warn Storm, but he's not sure what he should tell her. Not sure if this is an old foe or a new one. He is lost and has no idea what's happening and what all this means. In the meantime, Kitty as the bride-to-be is enjoying the happiest evening of her life, with her fellow Morlocks welcoming her. They are all dressed up for the ceremony, as if out of a storybook, and are waiting for her handsome Prince Charming to walk down the stairs. As he arrives, Kitty's excitement and joy gets tempered, as she looks up to the man who has won her heart. The mind spell placed on her by one of the Morlocks is ebbing away, and she starts to gag when she looks her husband-to-be in the face. It's the face belonging to Caliban. She snaps back to reality and pushes him away, as she tells him to get away from her. He tells her not to do this, and she tries to make her way out of here. She gets crowded by the Morlocks and tries to phase out of there, but she seems not to be able to do so. Her powers seem to be gone. She realizes she's in the Morlock alley now, but she doesn't remember how she got here. She remembers she was on the top of the Baxter building, but after that, things get hazy. She gets grabbed by Sunder and he is hurting her, as he forces her to stay in her place in front of Callisto. She tells Sunder to cut it out because it hurts, but Callisto tells her it's a reminder so she will behave herself. Only now does she start to realize she's dressed up in a raggedy wedding dress, befitting a Morlock. She asks Callisto what is going on, and she reminds Callisto of Storm's first order for the Morlocks when she took over leadership from Callisto, namely to not attack people on the surface world above them anymore, and this includes the X-Men. She tells Callisto that she will be sorry when Storm finds out that they've kidnapped her, but Callisto tells her that she most likely thinks that Kitty is dead. And even if she doesn't, she wouldn't help Kitty, because they haven't violated any rules, regardless of how much they would want to. She tells Kitty that they have merely returned one of their own, so she can repay her debt and fulfill her sworn obligation. Kitty has no idea what Callisto is on about, so Callisto reminds her of the promise she made to Caliban, when he helped Kitty and the X-Men against Callisto a couple of weeks ago, namely the promise that she would stay with him forever. Kitty now realizes that it's time to drop the attitude, and to start feeling sorry. Not just for herself and her own current position, but for the fact that she actually did promise him that, and that he carried out his part of the bargain, but she has not. Callisto tells her that now it's her turn, and since she figures it wouldn't be right to have the two of them living in sin, they will have to get married. Kitty yells at no, and means to say something, but Callisto interrupts her, saying they all already know what she means. Insecure Caliban starts shaking and says that Kitty is disgusted by him, while he looks at her. Callisto seems to be enjoying this, because the more painful this is for Kitty, the sweeter her revenge will be. Getting her wits back, Kitty thinks of her boyfriend Colossus and what had happened to him, which is the reason she was on the rooftop of the Baxter building to begin with. She tells Callisto he was badly wounded by the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and that he may be dying. She adds that she had the only means of saving him and that Callisto has to let her go. Callisto asks her if she promises to come back, with a smug look on her face. Kitty says she will, and Callisto asks her if she gives her word, and Kitty confirms this. After which Callisto says that that is what Kitty said the last time to Caliban as well. So why would they believe her now? Kitty remains silent for a moment, not sure how to respond. And then yells out no and starts running, trying to get away again. She is successful this time and notices that they didn't even try to stop her this time around, knowing that she probably won't be able to find her way out of here anyways. She does not remember the tunnel she is in right now, which is no surprise since the last time she was here, she was extremely sick due to Plague's mutant powers. She didn't see much and wasn't paying full attention back then, which makes sense because she didn't think she'd ever return here. Making her way through the sewers on high heels and in a torn up wedding dress, she figures finding a way out, any way out, shouldn't be too hard. Just find a ladder and keep climbing upwards until she sees some form of daylight. She can hardly see anything in the darkness of these tunnels, and thinks to herself that that might even be for the better actually. She doesn't really want to know what the environment looks like here. And suddenly she sees some red eyes looking at her from the darkness, and can't make out if those eyes are Morlock eyes or maybe something worse. She has no idea what kind of creatures live down here. She trips and hurts her ankle and dives headfirst into a pool of sewage water. Lying in the water, she realizes that she can't phase, can't run, and all she can do is cry apparently. She asks herself what kind of an X-Men she is, and what kind of a person to begin with. She thinks back to when she was here the last time around, when the X-Men's lives were at stake. Caliban was her only hope, and she would have probably said anything and done anything to get him to help her. He could have even died for his betrayal of Callisto, but he helped her anyway, because he loves Kitty. And she betrayed him. And what's probably worse in all of this, is that Kitty would do the same thing over again. She would lie again if that's what it would take to save her friends. She wonders if that's a requirement to be an X-Men. To go against all your beliefs and turn your back on everything you thought was right and wrong. Her fundamental beliefs about herself even. Just like Storm has. As she's lost in thought, she suddenly sees someone or something approaching. It's an ugly looking, green-skinned little creature, and Kitty figures it's a Morlock. He speaks only 3 words. Lost, lonely, and scared. And Kitty isn't sure if he's talking about himself or about her. She gets up and holds his hand, thinking to herself that she should leave him and keep on running away. But how far will she go to try and get away from her conscience? Eventually, they return to Callisto and the rest of the Morlocks. Kitty tells Callisto that she gave her word and that she intends to keep it, and Callisto says that she knew she would. Kitty then asks Callisto to save Colossus, if she has any way to do so. She begs Callisto, and tells her that Colossus means the world to her. Callisto just smiles and tells her that there is no need to beg. She's one of them now, and Morlocks look after their own. Callisto then tells the little green kid, whose name is apparently Leech, to make himself useful and go find the healer. And she tells the Morlock Joe to tidy Kitty up again and to then bring her to Masque. She then continues to tell Kitty that once you're a Morlock, you get a new face and a new body as well, if you want to have a new body. Kitty asks her why that is, and Masque tells her that they are outcasts and outlaws. A new appearance symbolizes the rejection of the life you led, the world you knew, and the people you loved. Kitty then asks Masque if it will hurt, and Masque asks her in return if that even matters. He then changes Kitty's face into his own, Callisto's, Caliban's and Storm's, while having fun in doing so. This process really bothers Kitty, especially having Storm's face, and Masque clearly understands why. He then tells her that it's no problem, she could just look like nothing at all, as he simply gives her a blank face with no features whatsoever. Kitty tells her to stop this and to leave her alone. She's not some kind of toy for him to play with, she's a human being. And Masque then spitefully asks her what that makes him then. Something different? Kitty then screams in agony, as Masque deforms her entire face, and asks her if she thinks she's better than the rest of them. Callisto interrupts him and tells him to stop it, that he has had his fun with her and to put her back the way she was. He tells Callisto that he likes her better this way, and Callisto points out to him that this was not a request, and tells him to fix her right now because she can't even breathe like this. Masque reluctantly does what he's told. A bit later, Kitty is standing next to Caliban in the alleyway, doing her best to not tremble or cry, while Callisto is leading the wedding ceremony. Kitty is not only devoting the rest of her life to Caliban, but to being one of the Morlocks as well. She says that even though they might not like Kitty, they have to respect her courage for doing so. Callisto herself didn't think she'd have it in her. She then gets interrupted by Storm, who has objections to this marriage. Kitty panics and the X-Men are happy to find out that she's fine, which leads the question to who the dead girl at the morgue was then. Wolverine intends to find out, but Storm stops him before he can do so. She says that she leads the Morlocks and tells him to leave this to her, but Kitty tells her to stay out of this as a whole. She says that she's not being forced in doing this, but this is of her own free will. She can tell that Storm doesn't listen, and wonders why she won't. Storm fires a lightning bolt at Callisto and tells her that because of her, a girl's dead. Denied the simple decency of getting buried with her own face. She uses her powers to conjure up a wind and lifts Callisto up in the air. And Callisto is telling Storm that she has a short fuse. But she has something planned though, as she tells Leech to drop himself from the ceiling, and to touch Storm, making her lose her powers instantly. Both Callisto and Storm fall on the floor, but Callisto was ready for this, gets up first and jumps towards Storm. Rogue and Wolverine can tell that Storm's in trouble, and know that Callisto is trying to even the score after the last encounter. Kitty shouts to Rogue to not go near Leech, because she figures that he is the reason she couldn't use her own powers before. Callisto must have had him standing in the crowd nearby. She tells Rogue and Wolverine that physical contact is not a necessity for his powers to be effective. Being in close proximity is all it takes, but it's too late and they both fall to the ground as well. Callisto is on top of Storm by now and tells her that she wants back what is hers by right. Storm tells her that she didn't need her powers back then and she's less of a gentler woman right now. Wolverine pops his claws and tells Leech he has made a big mistake, since his claws are metal implants. They always work. The rest of the Morlocks find themselves not in agreement as to what they should do, and Kitty grabs a hold of Wolverine's arm and tells him to sheath his claws again. Wolverine asks her why she's trying to hold him back, when they are here to rescue her in the first place. She asks him if they ever considered asking her if she even wanted to be rescued, or if this is just a convenient excuse to be able to bash some skulls in. She tells him that this is all her fault, her responsibility, and up to her alone to resolve the matter. She says that she has brought enough people pain as it is, and won't be party to that anymore. Colossus is what's important right now, and with the help of the Morlocks, they might have a way to save him. But if they don't want to help, if Colossus' life doesn't matter, they can just go ahead and rip each other's hearts out. The X-Men just look at her as Storm asks Kitty to forgive her. Callisto mockingly asks Storm if she lost her temper, but Storm thinks to herself that she actually still wants to kill Callisto. Callisto tells Storm that they have an agreement with the kid, and they intend to keep it. So several minutes later, back at the Xavier mansion, Morlocks and the X-Men stand in the infirmary. Callisto brought the Morlocks healer with her, and Kitty has a plan which she explains to everyone present. The healer was able to save Callisto when she got stabbed in the heart by Storm, so the plan is to have Rogue absorb Colossus' powers by touching him with her bare hands. This will make him return to human form, and will allow the healer to use his skills on him and heal his physical injuries. Xavier thinks that this is plausible, but Rogue is slightly hesitant, since she has shied away from absorbing people whose powers involve major physical transformations, such as for example angels and nightcrawlers. She is not sure what transformations like that would do to her body with lasting effect, and she likes the way she looks. Xavier tries to make her feel more sure about the process, by telling her that he will guide her along the way and augment her abilities with his own if necessary. Rogue appreciates this and takes off her gloves, expressing her thoughts of wondering if she will end up looking like his normal self in organic steel form, or if she will end up in the same state he is currently in. She approaches him, touches him, and his powers start to transfer to her. The process which led to Colossus being this way is extremely painful, as Rogue finds out, despite Xavier's efforts to shield her mind from it. Storm feels sympathy for what Rogue must be going through right now, and feels that doing this solidifies her place among the X-Men for sure. As soon as Colossus becomes his human self again, blood immediately starts pouring from his many wounds, with only a few seconds to live. The Morlock healer's touch extends these seconds to minutes and eventually to years, all the way to the point where Colossus is fully healed. It will take him some time to fully recover from this, but he will surely survive the ordeal now. The next day, on the corner of Central Park and 72nd Street, by the subway station, Illyana asks Kitty if she really has to go. Kitty tells her she gave her word and asks Illyana what she is if that means nothing. She says that Wolverine would understand. It's simply a matter of honor. She hands Illyana envelopes containing letters. One for her parents and one for Illyana's brother Colossus. She has tried to explain the situation in these letters to everyone involved. She knows that Piotr won't like it one bit and will try to come after her, but she tells Illyana that she must not allow her brother to do so. Illyana says that this isn't fair, and Kitty agrees, but she adds that it is the right thing to do. She tells Illyana that she is her best friend and that she already misses her. She will always remember her, as she walks down the stairs of the subway station. She wonders if she will ever get used to how dark and cold it is down here. She gets called by Caliban and she tells him she's ready when he is. Caliban looks at her with wide eyes and tells her that he has never seen anyone or anything more beautiful. Kitty can tell that he actually means this and that he truly does care for her. He tells her that she looks sad and asks if she misses the sun. Kitty tells him that that was her world, or at least it was. She says that his world is hers now, and that who knows, with a little luck, maybe they will live happily ever after. Caliban says perhaps, but not today. He then tells everyone that is assembled there to go away because the wedding has been cancelled. Caliban is releasing Kitty from her vows. She is free to go. Kitty can't believe what she's hearing, and Caliban tells her he now understands what he did not understand before. Her place is in the sun, and his is in the shadows. And even though Caliban is in love with her, he realizes now that forcing her to be with him is wrong. Kitty wants to respond, but Caliban interrupts what Kitty wants to say, by asking her a simple question. Does Kitty Pryde love Caliban? and Kitty simply responds in the only way that she can, namely by simply saying no. Caliban says that his love is so strong that it makes him crazy. He thinks he must let her leave, in the hope that someday she will return to him, but then of her own free will. Or that maybe he will find the courage again to live in the sunlight once more. Kitty tells him that she does not know if she will ever feel the same way about him as she does about her, but that she would be proud and honored to call him her friend. Caliban responds by saying that he is glad to hear her say that. He then gives her a keepsake which he had intended as his wedding gift. It's a single rose, and as he walks away from her, he tells her that when she looks at it, he would like her to remember him as kindly, not as a Morlock monster, but as the prince that he is. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, because it really helps me out in growing the channel and being able to produce more videos like this one. See you next episode.